Welcome to Newly Invested, the podcast that's all about the real, sometimes raw journey of real estate investing. I'm your host, Judith Tait, bringing you conversations from the trenches of the investment landscape, where we celebrate victories, learn from setbacks, and unlock the secrets to successful property investing. Whether you're a novice investor seeking tips and guidance or a seasoned pro eager to share your story, you've come to the right place. Let's get started and delve into the exciting world of real estate investing. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Newly Invested. I'm your host, Judith Tait. Now, if you're interested in multifamily development properties and value-add projects, energy efficiency, and the CMHC MLI Select program, or even how to structure a deal, you're going to want to listen to this episode and take notes. I'd like to welcome Ali Nazarian to the show. Welcome, Ali.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. So I'm just going to read your bio. You've just got so much experience, and I really respect what you do and everything that you've accomplished. So Ali is a full-time real estate developer, investor, and coach with a passion for growth, creativity, and quality. He founded Ecolux Developments in 2017 with the goal of developing and building energy-efficient residential buildings. With a background in engineering, project management, and risk management, he's focused on multifamily development and value-add projects that provide a safe and comfortable home for the residents and above average returns for the investors. Welcome, Ali.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So how long, as I said, you've just got so much experience and you've accomplished so much. How long have you been investing in real estate?
Yeah, so I personally started in 2016, and that was when I bought my first, property. We can call the investment property. That's when the journey started. I started looking into it 2014, 15. Also I kind of grew up a little bit around real estate. Like my parents, like the house that we lived in, they later on added a second unit and rented that as we grew up, and we're going to school and college and whatnot. So I saw the benefits of having a rental unit or having a rental property and dealing with tenants and whatnot. So I guess I had a little bit of background. I always believed in real estate. I just never focused on it until 2015, 2016. Yeah.
Okay. So you've obviously been around it since you were a child. How has that given you a bit of a competitive edge with what you're doing today?
Yeah, I would say like the biggest thing was like basically that was my parents' retirement plan. And I saw really how much it can help you as you get older and whatnot, your kids grow up and you have more expenses. Having that passive income from a rental unit, that's really huge. And I basically experienced how much that helped my family, because my parents were both teachers, right? So they made an average income, but that additional income from the investment. So basically whatever they could save when we were kids, they put it into finishing this second unit, was the second floor. But it took a few years because they would save up a little bit, do something, finish it, and then later on it was finally done and rented to some friends. And it supplemented the family's income. And so I think that was the biggest advantage, I would say, was really knowing how much it can help you. And so I sometimes say, like, nobody had to sell the idea of real estate to me. I was sold to it from childhood. And the other part was really understanding tenants, because, I could see like how we deal with tenants and whatnot. And it wasn't in Canada, but the beauty of real estate is the principles of real estate have been the same and are still the same all around the world, no matter where you are. People are people, the needs are the needs, rules change, but the fundamentals don't change. So knowing what tenants need, how to deal with tenants, sometimes difficult tenants, how to pick, better tenants. Obviously, you have to pay attention to the rules, but at the end of the day, it's people to people, right? Like you're dealing with people, you're dealing with their needs, their emotions, and whatnot. So I would say that probably was my competitive edge, and basically really understanding rental.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Like understanding and knowing how to deal with tenants, because from what I've learned, that seems to be probably one of the most difficult parts of real estate investing. Like you can have amazing tenants and everything's smooth, but you could have tenants that are an absolute nightmare and you lose so much money to those tenants.
Yeah, and you can have decent tenants that you turn them into terrible tenants because of what you did and how you treated them.
Oh,
So
true.
so you can so how you it's like customer service, right?
Yeah.
So tenants are our clients. They're paying the bill, and we have to treat them like clients
Yeah.
and or customers. And you know how to say customers are always right. They're not always 100% right, but you have to treat it that way and
Mm,
treat them like customers and not have that top-down view that just because you're the landlord and the tenant, they have to listen to you or they have to do whatever you tell them to do. So having that kind of different perspective of how to deal with tenants, I think that's important. Like see them as humans that they are,
yeah.
understanding that they have needs, they have, uh, they're just put yourself in their shoes and treat them that way. I think that I would say was the experience in uh, like learning that. I think that takes a little bit of time.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's someone who's got a great level of emotional intelligence because you have to know how to deal with people. And you're right, like you could have decent tenants and then you turn them into bad tenants because you weren't
Yeah,
treating them respectfully or, just listening to what their needs are and taking that into
exactly.
consideration. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
so important. And that's just like
yeah,
any business, like, going to, the grocery store or, Walmart or whatever. It's important for the employees to treat their customers like their family. So,
exactly. Yeah. And for example, like if the fridge breaks down, well, having some empathy that hey, like it does suck to live without a fridge, right?
yeah,
And like trying to show that you care and you're trying to
yeah.
fix their problem rather than ignoring or you say okay, like whatever, like I don't know, some people sometimes landlords try to get away with the cheapest possible solution just because it's a rental.
Hmm.
uh but I think that's just bad business, right?
Yeah. Okay, so tell us about Ecolux because I see the word lux as in luxury in there. So you
Yeah.
obviously you don't replace stuff with like the cheapest possible, fridge or the cheapest possible
Yeah.
solution. So you're after like the luxury type of clients or
Yeah,
properties.
so there's a story behind the name. So I'm passionate about energy efficiency and sustainability, and funny enough, I've thinking about like where does my passion for energy efficiency in homes comes from, and actually just recently I was thinking about it, and this is probably the first time I'm publicly mentioning it. But the
Oh.
house that we lived as kids, like my parents kind of like hired contractors to build it and whatnot, and it was like back in the days, like 40, 50 years ago, and it wasn't properly insulated. And it was always super, super hot in the summer and very cold in the winter. And even during the day, the temperature would change a lot. And it would
Mhm.
become annoying, especially on the second floor where you're exposed to the sun and whatnot. And I think that kind of like always stuck in my head that, there could be a better way to build a house that you're not wasting the energy or comfort. And so after like in school, I did mechanical engineering, so we learned about like heat load, cooling load, and all this stuff that goes into a HVAC design. And I worked with a little bit of like alternative energy, solar energy, and whatnot. Makes me sound old, but like it was fairly, it wasn't as common back then. So when I thought about getting into real estate and getting into building homes, and that was my passion, right? Like I was always passionate about building homes. It was always fascinating for me to see a piece of dirt, and then somebody puts their imaginations together and brings some bunch of material, and there you go. And a year later, you have a place that people are going to call home and make memories, right? So that was always fascinating for me, the creative process of building homes, and I always wanted to build homes. Uh, so in 2016, I bought my first property. In 2017, I finally pulled the trigger, bought a piece of land in a small town called Lloydminster in Alberta, and
Okay.
became my own GC. So I started hiring people and built a house to basically fulfill my lifelong dream to build my own house. And
Uh-huh.
so when I was doing that, I was like, I want to, I don't want to just be another builder. I want to build for the future. I want to keep up with the times. And so I wanted to bring energy efficiency into that because that was something that was top of mind for me. And at the time, my idea was to build luxury, eco-friendly luxury homes. And that's where the
Mm-hmm.
name Ecolux came from.
Oh.
Obviously, like I learned later that being a luxury home builder is not really actually a really great business model. So I kind of stepped away from that and focused more on development, like being a developer rather than the builder. And there's a
Mm-hmm.
slight difference there. And
Mm.
so that's basically where the name came from. So we're not doing luxury now, but we still believe in quality. And
Yeah.
that's another thing that came with the experience that a quality product attracts quality customers. And
Yes.
so going back to the point earlier that treating your tenants like customers, if you want to get the best customers, you need to put the best product on the market. You can't
Yeah.
expect to have, spend the cheapest possible, lowest budget possible renovation and get the best possible tenant. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So right now, focus is on energy efficiency and some sustainability, not luxury, but being above average and making sure it's a nice place for people to live.
So with your focus on energy efficiency, um, what exactly does that entail? Like, what do you
Yeah.
do to make buildings energy efficient?
Yeah. So right now, the most popular one is using heat pumps,
Oh.
versus using gas boilers and whatnot. There are other ways that you can create energy efficiency. Sometimes even like the plumbing fixtures that you choose, you have to pay attention to, is it a what we call like a low consumption, like low flow fixtures,
Yeah.
or there's something called a passive solar design. Like you pay attention to, the angle of the and size of the windows and how much sunlight you're getting in the summer. If you have
Hmm.
like south-facing windows and you have the biggest windows and you're facing south and you don't have any shade or awning or anything over your windows, you'll notice in the summer it will get really hot inside the
Yeah.
unit. But just a simple awning or gable over the window will block the sun at the peak of the day in the summer and
Mm.
will basically reduce the cooling load in the unit. So there are
Ah.
small tricks like that you can use.
Hmm.
Obviously, like better windows, better insulation, and there's a few things like that you can use.
Hmm. That sounds really interesting. That's great. And I'm pretty sure like it takes a lot to think of all that and put that together. So do you have a team that you work with that helps you with all of these? What does that look like in the back end?
Yeah, so you normally work with energy advisors
Okay.
that can model this in their softwares, and
Hmm.
you can try out different solutions. The thing is, there's multiple ways to achieve energy efficiency, and
Hmm.
the art is to achieve the same energy efficiency with the lowest possible cost, to make things economical. Again, heat
Yeah.
pumps are the most popular, but there are other things that you can do. And the same thing again, like having awnings over the windows or things like that are basically low cost solutions that
Hmm.
if you work with an energy advisor that knows how to model that in their software, you might actually be able to achieve your energy efficiency with that.
Okay. Wow. That's pretty good. So speaking of energy efficiency, I know that is one of the I guess one of the products or whatever you call it in the CMHIC or CMHC
Mm.
MLI Select program. Now there were recent changes to that program. So what are your thoughts on the recent changes they made?
Yeah. So this is really timely. So I don't know when this will be released, but the new rules kicked in yesterday,
Mhm.
and so the So I'll go back a little bit. So I started doing this energy efficiency stuff, but one of the challenges has always been the additional cost of improving energy efficiency. So I was almost kind of giving up on the idea of like building energy efficient buildings because it was hard to justify the cost. And when it would come to like, if you're selling the building and whatnot, not everybody would be willing to pay more to cover your cost or the additional cost. So when MLI Select, when there were talks about MLI Select and energy efficiency component of it coming out, and it was something that it was being discussed quite a few years ago because Europe and US, they've had these called green mortgages where you would get better terms on your financing if you have sustainability features in your development. And so there were talks about something similar being introduced in Canada. So eventually when CMHC came out, I was very excited. That was basically, jet fuel in my tank. And I was like, that's great. I'm going to jump all in. And we have started using energy efficiency in many of our projects, pretty much in all of them. But the recent changes, unfortunately, lowers the credit that you get for energy efficiency. So for those who don't know, CMHC MLI Select program is for commercial, residential, basically multifamily, 5+ units, including basically 5 and above, and allows you to get 95% loan to value or loan to cost, a lower debt coverage ratio, and up to 50 years amortization. And the way it used to work was you could get, there are different levels, but 100 points would get you to level 3, which is the highest level, and you would be able to go to 50-year amortization. And you were able to get those 100 points either through affordability by discounting your rents or energy efficiency. There was an accessibility part, but you couldn't qualify for 100 points just on accessibility. So as of June 19th, they changed the rules that with energy efficiency alone, you can no longer get the full 100 points that you need to get the best terms. You can only get 50 points, which would limit you to 40-year amortization. And so that 10 years of shorter amortization will increase your monthly payments, which means it will increase your basically debt coverage ratio, and that eventually will lower your loan amount as well. So it's going to make it less attractive to use the program. Complement that by affordability, but depending on where you are, if you have to be within the affordable rental rates, the numbers may not work for what you're trying to do. If you're in Alberta, it's a little bit of a different story.
Yeah. So do the numbers work better in Alberta with the affordability program?
Yeah, so the affordability part for MLI Select is based on the median renter's income that CMHC publishes. So, for example, in Toronto, the affordable rent, I believe, is somewhere around like $1,200 or $1,300. So to have a unit, that's like barely a 1-bedroom that you can rent, like a bedroom.
Yeah.
So if you have to bring your rent down to that level, no matter how small you make the unit, even a bachelor unit will not make sense because the market rent for a bachelor unit in Toronto or anywhere in GTA, it's probably in the $1,700-$1,800, if not $2,000. So you're basically losing that $800. And in multifamily, everything is based on your income, the value of your property, the mortgage that you can get. When you go to Alberta, for example, in Calgary, the affordable rent based on the median renter income is $1,735. So it's a lot higher. So incomes are generally higher in Alberta, the family incomes and individual incomes. So, for example, in our projects that in our current project that we're working in Calgary right now, all our bachelor units are at $1,450 to $1,550. So we're not really like losing income by calling those affordable units. It's just that if one day the rents go up a lot or the income goes down, those might be capped and like how much rent you can charge on those units. But for the time being and probably for the foreseeable future, in Alberta, I don't think that those changes will happen drastically that would affect it. But if you're
Okay.
trying to do this in like Ottawa, I think it's like, again, same 1,200, 1,300. So the numbers will not work likely. Unless you're getting like grants or some other things, that would be interesting to see if government is going to introduce any of those things, because based on the current rules and the current cost of construction and whatnot,
Yeah.
I don't think there will be much of like a new rental development in Ontario or anywhere else in Canada other than Alberta, probably.
Yeah.
So it's
So
really unfortunate that they did that. It seems kind of short-sighted decision.
I agree. Like I'm just learning about the program, but when I read it, I just thought this doesn't make sense. It doesn't make me want to go out and buy a multifamily property and use, the CMHC MLI Select program. That's kind of what I was hoping to do, but now it seems like they're making it a little more difficult, which I don't understand because we have such a housing shortage here and we need to build. We need places for people to live. But
Absolutely.
that combined with the change to the capital gains tax,
Yeah,
that I think that's going to drive a lot of people towards the US to
absolutely.
invest. Yeah.
It's interesting the hypocrisy in like what government says and does. They
Yeah.
talk about they want more housing, but it looks like everything they do, it's having an opposite effect.
Yeah.
Like in Toronto and Ottawa, they just increased the development charges by 20%.
Wow.
Not sure how that helps affordability. Maybe they know something
Mm.
that we don't
Yeah.
in the industry. But yeah, and making people like, have to force the affordability on people. To me, that just shows a very deep lack of understanding of the housing market on the government side and CMHC side, that
Hmm.
they basically just don't understand how things work. Because to me and a lot of our colleagues in the development space is, well, if we build more, they will become affordable. You can look at Alberta and Edmonton specifically, or Calgary. And Edmonton is a prime example. They've made it so easy for developers to build. They've done blanket rezoning, they've been always the pioneers in
Mm.
basically development space. And
Yeah.
and guess what? They don't have a housing crisis. They don't even have rent controls, but they have some of the most affordable rents in Canada. But
Yeah. Okay.
the government seems to ignore the facts and just make announcements that may or may not just be for political purposes,
Yeah.
but it doesn't really help people at the end of the day. Um, there
Mm.
has been a lot of new rental developments in Ontario since the MLI Select program came out, and
Yeah.
99.5% of those were based on energy efficiency, and now that's all going to stop.
Wow.
So we'll have less supply, and you would think that everybody understands the economics 101, that affordability is based on supply and demand. Demand is not going to become any less. So they have to increase the supply, but they're doing the exact opposite.
Hmm. Yeah. Doesn't it's not very encouraging for sure. So
You know,
are there any compelling reasons for someone to invest in multifamily properties that you can think of?
oh, there's many compelling reasons to invest in multifamily.
Okay.
This is just the way you can finance multifamily. It's one of the ways you can finance multifamily. But the
Uh-huh.
fundamentals of multifamily asset class uh, goes way, way back.
Hmm.
Multifamily assets are the most stable asset class that you can own across
Okay.
all asset classes. Like you talk about stocks, precious metals, anything, because it's an essential need. I was having this conversation at the event that we were both at yesterday with someone that's in precious metal.
Okay.
And the example I used was, if something happens tomorrow and everybody's brains get reset in the world, we can't remember anything of what we have agreed. If I
Okay.
look at a piece of gold, would I even recognize that it's gold, that I need it, that I want it? Probably not. But
Okay.
I'll probably know that I need a house to live in.
Oh, okay.
So it's a need that will never go away. No AI,
Ah,
no machine learning, no virtual reality can replace a home that you live in. It will never go away. It's always been around. It will always be around. It's an essential need. And multifamily represents the best in that asset class because it has the economy of scale. You have one roof for 10, 20, 100 units. You have one boiler system for entire building rather than owning like 10 single family homes. You can have all of that in one building. So you have the economies of scale. If one tenant doesn't pay out of a 10, 20 unit, that's not going to sink your ship, right?
Yeah.
You can weather that storm. Whereas in a single family, if your tenant doesn't pay, that's 100% of your income.
Yeah.
If you compare with other asset classes like stocks and whatnot, leverage is the biggest thing in real estate in general. So MLI Select would allow you to have 95%, loan to value, loan to cost. That's, I don't know, the leverage on that is just crazy, right? Like you're basically putting 5% and you're getting 20 times leverage.
Yeah.
Now maybe you might end up with 10% down payment. You're still getting, 10 times leverage on your money. So it's still better than all the other asset classes, in my opinion. This program makes it it made it a little bit easier. Now it's a little bit less easy. So it's all relative that we're talking here. It doesn't change the fundamentals of owning multifamily. Maybe we have to own it in Alberta or in US, but the fundamentals doesn't change. And if you think about it, the biggest, I don't know the exact stats, but I think like 80 or 90% of multi-billionaires in the world, they made their wealth in real estate. And a lot of them own multifamily assets. Pension funds, the backbone of their assets is multifamily. REITs, the backbone of them is mostly multifamily. So it's a proven strategy. It's been around for, many years, and it's not going anywhere because it's the most efficient form of owning multiple units.
Yeah. So if I wanted to go out and buy a multifamily property, and I chose like a 12 unit building, would you say that is a good investment, like without like looking at the numbers and stuff, but compared to say like a 30 unit building? Because I've been told that it's so much easier and better to go out and buy like say a 30 unit than a 12 unit.
Yeah, so economies of scale, it always helps, but you also have to look at your capacity and your comfort zone and your poverty. So a 30 unit building, there's more likelihood that you might have, maintenance repair issues that would be a higher ticket item. But assuming that money is not an issue, a 30 unit building would be better than a 12 unit. A 100 unit would be better than a 30 unit. The bigger the asset, the more cost effective it is to own it.
Okay. Yeah.
Because you're doing one transaction rather than multiple transactions. But again, it comes down to your experience level, how much time you have, how strong is your team, how big is your team, and how much capital you have access to.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. So have you had any major challenges in your real estate investing journey, and how did you overcome them?
There are always challenges. Nothing worth having comes easy. So
that's so true. I love it.
That is true. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
True.
So there are always challenges. Like most recently, again, coming back to CMHC, we're working on a 9 unit in Oshawa and a 9 unit to 16 unit conversion in London, which we started January last year. And the CMHC rules have fundamentally changed 3 times since then.
Yeah.
And so that becomes very frustrating and challenging. Last, I think September, they changed the rules and they said that you can't refinance your building for 2 years. And you have to be with an approved lender. That fundamentally changed the business model that we were working. So we had to basically pivot and find ways of basically being able to carry the properties for 2 years, which was not in our original business plan.
Wow.
That again goes to show how much CMHC doesn't understand how business models work. and how their decisions affect people. I know people who went bankrupt because of that change. Because you're halfway through the project, you're using, a more expensive financing, private financing and whatnot, and your plan is to exit with CMHC, and then they turn around and change the rules and they apply it retroactively rather than saying like, okay, moving forward, this is the new rule. But if you have made a business plan based on the rules that we made and announced, we're going to respect the announcement we made. But they don't seem to have that level of understanding. So that has been one of the biggest challenges recently.
Oh, wow.
Cost has been crazy. It has leveled off a little bit over the past 6 to 9 months.
Yeah.
But since January, like cost was still going up. Also, these delays, they translate into a huge amount of cost for clearing the property. So that I would say has been some of the biggest challenges.
Wow. I can see how that could definitely be a problem. Well, in your business plan, do you have contingencies laid out in there, like what you're going to do in case, or is this something that you just can't really plan for?
Yeah, there are certain things so there are known unknowns, and then there are unknown unknowns.
Okay.
So unknown unknowns, or sometimes they call it the black swan in risk management, is something that you don't expect. Like COVID was something that I doubt anybody built into their business plan contingency that you'll go into lockdown for like over a year. So that's an unknown unknown. That's something that you can't foresee, or a black swan. There are some known unknowns that, like, okay, interest rates might change. Again, I don't think anybody was predicting that interest rates would go up 6 times within 6 months or 8 months to that level. So yes, you build contingencies into the model, but sometimes things happen that are beyond those risk factors that you have considered, and you need to be able to pivot. And that's where you're saying, like, if it's easier to do 30 units versus 12 units, you have to look at your risk appetite as well. Because if you're carrying a $10 million loan at 10% and CMHC changes the rules, and now you have to carry that for 24 months instead of 6 months that you were planning, that's a bigger hit to take than if you're dealing with a 6 unit. So I would say, like, always look at your capacity of weathering storms, right? So it's important to look at risk in the project, basically stress test your business plan, but know that it's not bulletproof, no matter how professional you are. There were REITs that have done this for 30, 40 years, and they got caught in interest rates and COVID and things like that, right? So there's always unknown unknowns that we need to be able to pivot. And that's where the person behind the plan becomes more important, the plan. So the plan can change, the rules can change, but it's the person that needs to have that, I would say, mental capacity to be able to handle the stress, stay calm in those stressful situations, and think objectively and try to find solutions. The cliche saying of your network is your net worth. It can be more true when you're facing adversity. That's like, who's in your network that you can reach out for advice or for help, and the relationship with your investors, with your tenants, it all becomes very important.
Wow. I really like that, Ali. That's spoken like a true expert.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's just stuff that I never really thought of. Like, I guess in a situation like that, would you have to go to your investors to help fund the project for the remainder of the time period?
Sometimes you have to go to your investors, explain to them what's happening. Obviously it affects the investors' returns as well. And being transparent and honest, and doing your best. In one of our investments, as the working partners, we have a split of the profits. And when this happened, we actually had to reduce our share to increase the returns for the investors, because it wasn't our fault, but still When people have trusted in us with their hard-earned money, that's
Mm-hmm.
the utmost important factor for us. At the end of the day, if we end up not making money on that deal, but we can protect the investors, that's what we
Yeah.
will do. And that's what we had to do. We had to like readjust the terms of our agreements in favor of
Okay.
the investors, making sure that they're protected and to a level possible, right? But it was actually very humbling to see how much our investors trusted us,
Yeah. Oh,
and
that's good.
and that's important, right? Again, I think trust, transparency, and credibility is like that's the utmost asset that you have,
That's
especially as
right.
an active investor.
Yeah.
That's number one. If you breach that, it's very, very hard to come back from that. So being
Yeah.
transparent, being honest uh, with your investors, it's number one rule.
Mm-hmm.
With your tenants, treating them as humans, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and being honest with them as well. Sometimes it helps, right? We've had
Yeah.
tenants that we are trying to negotiate, cash for keys, and they were very hostile towards us because of what the previous owners had done.
Mm.
I almost like I'd had a tenant charging at me, and like we're trying to
Oh,
like back off and like calm the situation. So knowing how to handle those situations, and going from that to being basically invited to their house and sitting on their couch and having a chat about the terms of ending their lease, which
yeah.
could have derailed the entire project if we didn't get it to that point. So
Oh,
people
wow.
skills always becomes very important. So that's
Yeah.
another, I guess, piece is people the skill is very important in this business
Yeah, for
and
sure.
any other business.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Got to have people skills. Just got to know how to talk to people. Got to know how to read people. It's very
Exactly.
important.
Yeah.
So, is there a piece of advice that you wish someone had shared with you before you started your journey?
That's a very good question. I guess I would say like things never go as planned.
Yes, I
So
know. So true.
So yeah, and I guess the other one is like the timelines that people tell you, double and triple it.
Yes.
So that's another thing that you learn as you go through is things happen. Uh, Nobody cares about your project as much as you do as the owner.
Hmm.
So summer happens, people take vacation,
Yeah.
and it might be urgent for you. But it's not urgent for your consultant. So timelines are merely a guideline, what you get from people when you start working with them. If you go
Hmm.
to your planner, architect, or whatever, they tell you, yeah, this will take 3 months, budget for 6 months, and test, like stress test it for 9 months to a year and see what that does to your project.
Yeah.
Things
And-
again, black swan things like for people who are dealing with Hamilton, they got hit by cyber attack and the
yeah.
entire system is down and they have to rebuild it, and they're predicting that's going to take 6 months.
Oh
And
my
so
goodness.
something that the permit that would take a month, it now might take 6 months or even a year. I actually just heard another municipality in US, the same thing happened to them. They got hit by a cyber attack and they're going to be down for months.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, and it's more and more becoming prevalent that cybersecurity becoming uh, a threat to everyday person.
Yeah. Oh, I believe it. Everything's online, so it's
Yeah,
always only a matter of time.
yeah. So timelines are don't count on the timelines that people tell you.
Hmm. Okay, that's good. And well, besides those words of advice that you wish someone had told you, what words of advice do you have for anyone starting out their real estate investing journey?
Build your network,
Hmm.
educate yourself,
Yeah,
uh, be a sponge.
yeah,
Go to meetings, just absorb all the information. I see a lot of people jumping in with not enough knowledge. It's exciting. I get it. We've all been there. It's super, super exciting. But take your time to do your due diligence, talk to people, build that network of people that you can pick their brain. You know, relationships are like a piggy bank.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta put money into it so then you can withdraw from it, or it's like a bank account. So build those
Yeah.
relationships so that, you know, if you have a deal and you're a little bit unsure about it or something unknown comes, that, you know, you have enough credit with someone that you can, you know, take 15, 20 minutes of their time and pick their brain, buy them a coffee and like pick their brain and see what they think
Yeah.
about, you know, the problem. Or if you run into a problem, again, those networks, those relationships that you have built will save you literally
Yeah.
sometimes. So add value to other people, and that
Mm-hmm.
becomes basically like the money that you have invested in your bank account that you can withdraw from in the future.
Yes, I agree. Adding value and belonging to a network, a community. Like I've just been on
100%.
this investing journey for just over a year now, and I'm in so many different groups. And I met you in one of the groups,
Yeah.
and like everyone has just been amazing. Like this is a world where people truly want to help, and
Yeah.
everyone wants everyone to succeed.
Absolutely.
That's what I really love about it.
Yeah. I would take that. I would say people take that with a grain of salt. You don't blindly trust everyone, but yeah, the
Yes.
communities, there are good communities out there that people
Hmm.
are genuinely helping each other and giving each other support. So
Hmm.
being part of those groups, it's very, very valuable. In my
Yes.
first project, that house that I started building, I had a full-time job. And so I was kind of keeping it a secret, for whatever reason, like a lot of people, when they first start, they don't share with people what they're doing. I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe you're worried about people judging you or telling you that
Yeah.
what you're doing is stupid,
Yeah.
which I've been told. It's like, oh, you've never renovated anything. You're jumping and building a house from scratch.
Yeah.
Um, but not being part of groups and whatnot, it was becoming difficult because you run into issues.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, for
Anybody
sure.
that says that they don't run into issues in their project, they're probably, not remembering it correctly. So, and I learned the hard way when I ran into some issues, and because I wasn't talking to many people, I
Mm.
had a very small group of people I could turn to for advice,
Hmm.
and yeah, then I learned the hard way that how valuable it is to be part of communities and groups that you can
Yeah.
turn to for advice and
Yeah.
brainstorming with them. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I know they've been super helpful for me. Anything is just like I didn't understand. There was always someone that I could reach out to, and they've been so generous with their time because I know we're
Absolutely.
all very busy. But I'm
Absolutely.
I'm like that too. Like if anyone needs help, I will do what I can to help them. I don't
That's
mind
amazing.
giving my time because it's
That's
just
awesome.
what goes around comes around, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. 100%.
yeah, that's great. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the lightning round questions.
Okay.
All
Let's do it.
right. This has been such an amazing conversation. I love it.
Thank you.
Okay. So, if you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
Um, Something that comes to mind might be controversial, but it's like Winston Churchill. Um,
Okay.
the calm, cool character,
Yeah.
but very good at executing plans
Yeah.
and getting things done.
Hmm.
That's the impression I have about him. Like, not putting the politics and everything else aside,
Yeah.
but I think he was known for staying calm under pressure, and I think that's a really great trait. So, would love to pick his brain on that.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a very smart and powerful man.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, I agree with that. Great. What's the most valuable piece of information or advice you've ever received from a coach or a mentor?
Um, I would say that the most important or piece of advice it was a um, uh, supervisor I had during my internship back in the days coming out of school working in oil and gas. And it was what gives you security is what you know.
Hmm.
It's knowledge. It's your knowledge is what gives you security. It's not the
Okay.
contract, it's not the work you're doing. it's your knowledge, because if you have that knowledge, you can always rebuild whatever you're doing.
True.
I mean, obviously, knowledge alone doesn't go very far, but knowledge with decisive action.
Yeah.
But knowledge is that backbone. So I would say that was the transformational for me at the time coming out of the school.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's great. I love it. And you're a very successful man. I see you as a successful man.
Thank you.
So
Appreciate it.
there must be habits that you do daily. So what daily habit do you do that has allowed you, or that has gotten you to where you are today, or has allowed you to become the best version of yourself?
I would say the previous one that I mentioned, always learning.
Okay.
I would say, like, there's hardly a day that I'm not learning something new. Doing it through listening to podcasts, audiobooks when I'm driving, talking to people.
Good.
So I'm always hungry for knowledge, and trying to learn. That I would say is one habit. And dedicating time to learning, right? Like sometimes we get busy and like, oh, I don't have time for learning something new. It doesn't have to be like something absolutely 100% like different from what you're doing, but just continuous improvement. I would say that's probably the biggest thing. And I strongly believe in that. It's some people call it the 1% rule. Is like getting 1% better every time you do something. I would say the other piece is doing it right the first time.
Yeah.
That's kind of my motto. Like not doing a half-assed job. Don't do it or do it right. That's what I believe in. And I think that has been factored in where I am today.
That's good. I believe that. So there's a few places that, the audience can connect with you. So you have a Facebook group dedicated to land development. You have a monthly online meetups dedicated to land development. And you're also offering to help with underwriting multifamily development projects. So of course, if people want to do that, they could reach out to you. So tell us about your groups, like your Facebook group and your online meetup.
Absolutely. So the Facebook group is called Housing Developers and Builders of Canada, HDBC. On Facebook, this is a group I started in February 2021 during COVID. Again, looking for information, looking to connect with like-minded people. And I just couldn't find a group that specifically talked about development and building homes. So I was like, why not just create my own group? So, and to my surprise, that has grown to just over 2,000 members. And we have been having monthly online meetings every third Thursday of the month for over 2 years now, nonstop. And HDBC, or Housing Developers and Builders of Canada, on Facebook, or on Eventbrite. If you Google it, it will pop up, and it's a free online meetup. We're going to be probably hosting some in-person events as well sometimes.
Perfect.
And you can find me, Ali Nazarian, on Facebook, Ecolux Developments on Instagram. If people need consulting, that's something that on a case-by-case basis, I can help some people with some consulting as well with multifamily development projects.
That's amazing. And that's so generous of you doing all of that, because I have a Facebook group. It's a lot of work. I know organizing these meetups is a lot of work. So, and you're already doing a lot of work in your business. So that's really good of you to do this and offer that to people.
And that's power of having a team, right? Like, so I've a few people that generously help me as well with running these activities. So that's awesome. Again, this is a team sport.
Yes, that's good. I love it. Thank you so much, Ali. This was such a great interview.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was really fun. And good job creating the podcast and as part of your journey. And you're a great host.
Oh, thank you. I love it. I have so much fun. I just love talking to people and interviewing people. And it's just, I learn a lot. My audience learns a lot. So thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And thanks everyone for watching and listening. And we'll see you next time on another episode of Newly Invested. Happy investing. Bye.
And that brings us to the end of another enlightening episode of Newly Invested. A huge thank you to our guest and to all of you for tuning in. Remember that investing in real estate is a journey filled with highs and lows, but the key is to keep learning, keep investing, and keep growing. If you want to stay updated with our latest episodes, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you enjoyed today's episode, we'd appreciate it if you could leave us a review. This is your host, Judith Tait, signing off, and we'll see you next time on another episode of Newly Invested. Happy investing! The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the podcast. The information shared in the podcast is for general informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, financial, or professional advice.